All right, so let's talk about working with someone who is extremely ADHD when you are kind of the polar opposite. This is something that I am really dealing with right now. And I know that it's a struggle for me. And so I thought, I can't be the only person out there struggling with this. So I thought I would take some of the things that I have learned in the last few weeks and I would share them for anyone who is in the same position where I am. Because one thing that I have realized is I can't expect my co-author is very ADHD. I can't expect him to change. And expecting him to change is, number one, futile. And number two, it is not fair. So I've had to really figure out a way to keep us on track and to keep our working relationship compatible and going well. So here are the 3 things that I have discovered over the last few weeks that have really helped us when it comes to staying focused and staying on track. All right, so the first thing that you have to do, if you're partnered up with someone who has ADHD and you're more of a linear thinker, is you have to realize that this is something that's out of their control. They can't help it. They're not doing it to get on your nerves. They're not doing it to keep you off track. They're not intentionally trying to flip from thing to thing. This is just the way their brain works. If your brain is a straight line, you think of theirs as just like a knot full of string and it's just going every which way. And so once you accept that and you realize this is not like an intentional stall tactic or whatever, it kind of helps because I felt like at first I was just really beating my head against the wall and I had a lot of frustration and I thought, this is counterproductive. And so I had to learn to let that go. And that really helped quite a bit. Okay, so once you kind of let it go and you realize I can't help it, the next thing you have to do is you have to, as the linear thinker, be the goal setter and kind of the task master, if you will. So what I always have us do at the beginning, and of course I'm a big goal setter person. I start 5 years out and I move, to a year, to a month, to a week, to a day, to right now. I'm just a goal setter. I've read lots of things about productivity and goal setting. And so I follow what works. And so I just take it upon myself that, okay, at the beginning we set goals. So if we're going to work for 2 hours, this is what we want to accomplish. And then in the middle of it, my co-author usually will say, what we need to do? We need to do X, Y, Z. And I'll say, okay. And I'll say, I'm going to write it down on this sheet. So if we have time, if we finish, 1, 2, and 3, we can come back and we can work on this. If not, we can start off here tomorrow. And so that way, because the thing about people with ADHD is their thoughts come so often and then if they don't act on them right away, they forget them. And so it's just a way of keeping them in their creative part, but also reminding them that you can't just go off on a tangent. We have to get something done. And the third thing, which, I was a kindergarten teacher for several years and, all of my 16 years in the public schools I spent in the elementary level. So I, worked with a lot of kids, schedule in movement breaks. And, even though my co-author is a grown adult, I still will say, and I don't do it in a way that is obvious, but I'll say what, we've been working for, an hour and my back's kind of getting tight. Let's go take the dogs out. Or why don't you go check the mail? Or I need to go to the bathroom. Something that gets us up and moving, even if it's just for a little bit. So that those breaks are built in. So between tasks, we have our movement breaks. And that kind of helps get the wiggles out and all that because it's really hard for someone with ADHD to sit for an entire afternoon and be focused on the project at hand. So that's how we do it. So if you are a linear thinker and you work with someone who has ADHD and you have a great tip, please drop it in a comment so that the rest of us can try it and implement it. If you have ADHD and you have to work with those linear thinkers and there's something that totally drives you nuts or something that would be more helpful, please comment and let us know. You can find me on Instagram. I am the flip side of me. Also, if you go to my blog at theflipsideofme.com, I have links to some books. I mentioned that I read productivity books, and I've linked several of my favorites because to me, if there is someone who is out there and they have done it and they've written a book about it, I'm going to read it because I like to learn. So I am happy to share those with everyone. And I hope everyone is able to come together and work together, and we can make this world a beautiful place.